Hey, this is Lyle Dodge with Azure in the Enterprise. I'm going to do a quick screencast walkthrough of setting up Azure Red Hat OpenShift using the docs on the portal. So let's get started. So the first thing we need to do here is go ahead and just head over to the docs page. So for that, we're going to go ahead and go over to docs, which we've aliased at aka.ms whack OpenShift whack docs, which will take you right here. So let's just go ahead and walk through. So first thing to do, in order to set up a cluster, first thing you need to do is set up your development environment. So part of that is you can either use Azure Cloud Shell, or you can go ahead and install the Azure CLI. So for this, essentially just go ahead and install the Azure CLI. You can either grab the Azure CLI here, that will get you Azure CLI for Windows, Mac, and Linux, or you can use Azure Cloud Shell. I just installed mine using Chocolatey, so if that's just a Choco install Azure CLI, so that will get you what you need to do. And in order to do, once you've done that, the first thing you need to do after you do that is actually register the Azure Red Hat OpenShift General Availability feature in your subscription. Now, if you are an administrator on your sub, when you go deploy, you probably won't have to do these things because they will auto-register, but you know, it's just kind of nice to make sure that these are registered and you don't hit those errors later. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'll paste this script up in the comments so that way you've got it. So you've got a little makeshift template. So I'm just going to go ahead and pop this in. We'll let that run in the background. So after that, the next thing that you have to do is go and create an Azure Active Directory tenant. Now, if you have access to your company's AAD and you have admin consent and some of the other things that you might need, you can just use your company's. For this demo, we're just going to go ahead and create an AAD tenant, user, security group, and a managed identity, so that way we've got those. So when we go ahead and do this, it says, hey, go ahead and sign into the the Azure portal and create a new Azure Active Directory. So I'm going to come in here and create a resource, Azure Active Directory, create. Let's do Lyle Dodge RO demo 4, and we'll just copy the same name here. So we'll let this go. All right, and now we should be good to go. With directory was created, let's go ahead and come here and manage it. Now, the things that we had to go do in this was create user, and then create a security group to be used by Azure Red Hat OpenShift, and then create a managed identity to be used by OpenShift. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to come in here. We're in our tenant. We can see Lyle Dodge RO demo 4. We're going to create a new user. So for this, we'll do Lyle, and we can see, grab this here. We'll use this in our script down here. And Lyle. Okay, and we're going to just add it to the global administrator role right now. Now, if you were setting this up for production, obviously you would not add them. This would be essentially your first account, and so after that, you're going to want to make sure you're using least privileged access. So let's go ahead, and we've created this. Let's go ahead and show the password. We'll need that. Let's go over here and snag that. Let's go ahead and hit create. Perfect. So now we've created ours here, and then we can also see that my corporate identity that I created this AAD with is also in here as well. So now the second thing that we had to do was go create a new group. Let's go ahead and do that. RO admins. Okay, members. Let's go ahead and grab our people here. Let's also grab Lyle at Lyle Dodge RO demo 4. Okay, now that we've created this, we need to snag the object ID here. So just come over here, click copy object ID. This is our group ID. So now we also need the client ID, the secret, and the tenant from our Azure Active Directory. So if we come back over here to the Lyle Dodge RO Demo 4, that's your AAD tenant you created. You can come over here, grab your directory ID. Okay, so we're going to grab our directory ID right here. This is your tenant ID. And now we need an app ID and a secret. So this is an enterprise, this is an app registration. So let's come in here to app registrations. Create a new registration. Let's see, this is RO Demo 4. We're going to scope it to accounts in this directory only. We will add in a web direct later, you'll see. So let's go ahead and create this. So we can see our tenant ID should match what we had earlier. Let's also grab the client ID. So that's our app ID. And now we need to go generate a secret. So we'll come back to this redirect URI in a little bit. So let's go ahead and come in here in certificates and secrets, create a new secret. Now copy this right here. Now once we leave this page, that secret's gone. So now we've got our app, our client ID, our tenant ID, our Azure Active Directory group ID, the secret for the managed identity, which is that app registration. Now we should be good to go. And I put in my cluster name, so we'll just do Lyle Dodge RO Demo 4. And I've got my subscription, I've got everything else good to go. So now we should be go ahead and create this. So let's come in here and grab these. See everything there ran. Once you register that feature, you actually just have to push it down to container service, so we're good to go there. So go ahead and set those. And now this is going to go create a resource group. So if we come in here, now we can flip back to our other directory. So we can go see that resource group. So you can see I created Lyle Dodge RO Demo 4. Okay, and we provision succeed. So now the next thing we have to do is let's go ahead and create the OpenShift cluster. And as that's creating, we can just come in here and just check our resource groups and see how it's going. So we can see we've got a couple of new things created here. We've got this OpenShift, so this has the managed app that you'll see that flows up in here soon. And if we look into the resource group here, this is where it's going to go start deploying a bunch of stuff. So let's just give that another minute. So this is the managed application from co-engineered from Microsoft and Red Hat. It's got deployed in. So we can see we've got 2 deployments that succeeded here. Message deployments kicked off, and that's our managed. So let's come back in here. So we can see here it's gone and deployed in our DNS zone. So that's what it's going to use to manage a bunch of the internal cluster stuff. So we'll just kind of pause it for a few seconds and let these deploy. All right, so let's take another look here. All right, so we can see things are starting to flow in. We've got our 3 VM scale sets, so our master and infrastructure nodes. that are completely managed by Microsoft and Red Hat, and then your 4 compute nodes. All right, so this is finished creating, so let's go ahead and take a quick peek. So we've got everything in here. We've got our skill sets. So let's go ahead and grab that command to go grab. So this will grab the JSON that actually shows us what got deployed, and this is where we're going to go ahead and come in and grab our public endpoint that we're going to go put into the app registration. All right, so now that that's gone, so let's do, I think we're looking for public host name here. So let's go ahead and grab that, just to make sure that is what we're looking for. So public host name. Let's go ahead and this is what we want right here, is this little GUID, shortened GUID. So let's take that. That's what goes in here. So now this URL is what we're going to go grab and put into our app registration. So let's come over here to AAD. Let's switch back over to this guy. Let's go back to that app registration. And let's pop in this redirect URI. So this is where we're just putting in that really long thing. Let's save it. Now that that's in there and we've been deployed, or at this point we should be able to log in. Good. So now we can see here I'm logged in actually as my corporate ID because we added me as an admin. So we should be able to see now exactly this is the Azure Red Hat OpenShift portal where you can go ahead and browse through and deploy. And well, in further videos, we'll actually walk through what this means. So we'll grab some of our Red Hat experts inside of Microsoft and some of our Red Hat friends and walk through what the differences are between Azure Red Hat OpenShift as well as OpenShift on IaaS. So you can kind of look at what your deployment models get you. Now there's one last thing that you should probably do here. And just because an Azure Red Hat OpenShift cluster runs you about $5 an hour. And so that's the all-up master infrastructure and application nodes that get deployed. So you're looking at around $5 an hour, give or take. That's based on generally US East pricing, the DS4 V3s. So you don't necessarily want to keep this up all the time. So since we don't want to do that, what I'm going to do is come back over here to our docs, now that we've created it, and say, hey, next thing you might want to do is go ahead and delete your cluster. So this is fairly simple. You just come back in here and do AZ OpenShift delete. So we're just going to come back in here in our create guy, and we're going to strip back to resource group and name. And change this to a delete. It says, do you really want to do this? Yes. All right, and so that's it. In the background, this is going to go ahead and finish running. And then when you're done, you'll have that cleaned up. So that's a really quick, simple walkthrough for creating an Azure Red Hat OpenShift cluster. So you can go ahead and play around with it. It's roughly $5 an hour based on US East pricing. So this will let you go ahead and take a look at what's available to you in the managed OpenShift offering. So thanks, and we'll see you on the next one.